well, Lena. How about yourself?
I'm good. I'm good.
All
So,
right.
it's so good to have you here tonight. Thanks for all of you who are watching YouTube, Facebook, and on my personal page. Don't forget, if you are viewing this via somebody's watch party, we may not be able to see your comments. Also, you have to give StreamYard permission to use your Facebook to see your comments. So make sure that you give StreamYard permission for us to see your comments. So I have Tonya Logan here with me tonight. So excited to have you here, Tonya, talking about October being Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month. So just excited to have you here to just share your story with us, your journey with us, your book with us. So everybody, I'm Lena Lassiter. I'm the founder and president of Forever Healed. We are a nonprofit, and we provide a nurturing and safe environment, as well as the tools needed for those who are dealing with incomplete emotions due to a loss of any kind. As you know, we do this through one-to-one grief recovery classes. They can be done virtually or in person. And we also offer group grief recovery classes licensed by the Grief Recovery Method Institute. We do corporate seminars and workshops. And it's interesting because I actually met Tonya when I was certified. So Tonya, gosh, that was what, 2014, 2015,
Yep.
maybe?
Uh-huh.
So Tonya is actually a licensed clinical social worker, and she was in the certification class getting her CE credits.
Yeah.
And I was becoming certified to conduct grief recovery classes. So anyway, during that connection, I ended up, finding out that she was an author, getting a copy of her book, and just hearing her testimony. And it was just so powerful, her strength. And I never forget that. So Tonya, thank you so much for being here tonight. So if you're watching, please comment. Let us know you're here. Just say hello. Let Tonya know that you're watching. Here we go. Hi, Dawn. How are you? Good to see you.
Hi.
All right. So, Tonya, I'm going to share a little bit about you, your background, and then we are going to jump right into your testimony, story. So, Tonya is a LICSW and an LCSWC. She has over 27 years of professional clinical experience working with those managing conflict and trauma. She's a native of Washington, and she holds a bachelor's degree in psychology and a master's degree in social work from the University of Maryland at Baltimore. She spent the bulk of her career in DC and Maryland, working with biological parents and foster parents by securing, whether via reuniting these families or through adoption. And she recently transitioned to being the supervisory social worker in a non-public school for students. And if that's not enough, she works part-time as a clinician, providing mental health services to children, adolescents, and adults, as well as couples and families. And again, she's a published author. So her book is called Mommy's Bright Sunshine, Moving Beyond the Death of a Child While Grieving a Future Not to Be. Yeah. That's powerful. So I know October is Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month. But to me, your testimony in your book, it covered so many losses. It doesn't matter how old your child was. It doesn't matter the relationship. I think that your book provided just great tools to anyone who was grieving a loss. I think your book was also powerful for me because of the forgiveness that I could feel like coming through the pages of your book. Also, I can recall Tonya doing exactly what the babysitter did while watching Kayla. So I don't want to get ahead, because some of us have done this before. And if you are watching us, like how many of you back in the day when you had your kids, you would put the pillows on the bed to try to prevent harm to your baby, to prevent them from rolling off the bed? So Tonya, I'm going to turn this over to you. I want you to share whatever you want to share tonight. Talk to us about Kayla, her little life, um,
Uh-huh.
and then talk to us about the loss of your baby and
Mhm.
your journey, and then we'll get a little bit into your book.
Okay. And there's a copy of my book right behind me, so if anybody, can see it. But just to tell you, some oh, there she is. So just to tell you some of my story, so Kayla was born March of 1996, healthy, perfect, everything was going well. And then 5 months later, she was at the babysitter. I dropped her off that morning, headed to work. And so later on that day, my mother had called me at work and said that Kayla was in the emergency room and that she had rolled off the bed. And I'm thinking, that's really not a big deal. Like, they probably took her just to get checked out, but that just didn't seem that unusual or that traumatic to me at that time. But I left work. I said, I don't know what happened. My daughter's in the emergency room. So when I get to the hospital, though, the ambulance drivers were still outside. And as I walked up to the door, they said, there's the mother. And that was like my first clue that this must really be serious, because why are people out there sort of just looking for me? Then when I got inside, there's a chaplain. And because this happened to be a Catholic hospital. And there's a chaplain there. And I'm like, now, why are they calling a chaplain? Like, my daughter just rolled off the bed. I'm still not understanding because I hadn't seen a doctor at that point. So when they were able to stabilize her enough and I was able to see her, then there were so many tubes, she's so small. Again, she's only 5 months old in this big bed. And the first thing that I heard the pediatrician say was, should she survive? And then I didn't hear anything after that. But it started to occur to me why people knew who I was and were looking out for me, why the chaplain was there. And so over time, what I found out was that she had been laid on an adult bed. And like you said, pillows had been around her in an effort to protect her, essentially. But she rolled off the bed, and there was a TV tray that just happened to be next to the bed. So when she rolled off, it just so happened that her neck got caught in the legs of the TV tray. So when the babysitter found her, she was literally hanging. And so CPR was started. When the paramedics got there, they found out that she was in cardiac and respiratory arrest. And they were able to revive her, took her to one hospital, stabilized her, and then transferred her to Children's Hospital where she could get more specialized attention. So she had minimal brain activity, so she was on life support. But then a couple days later, she had failed all of those tests, including deep pain and what have you. And that's when the doctor said that by law, they would have to turn off the life support. And I was married at the time, and my husband and I decided that we were going to have the life support turned off at 6:53 p.m. because she was born at 6:53 a.m.
Mm.
And so this had been in the morning. So anybody who wanted had time to spend with her individually. My husband spent time with her individually. I spent time with her individually. And then basically, when it was time to get her ready, the nurses allowed me, to wash her, to dress her, all of those things. Then I was holding her, my husband was holding us, and then the life support was turned off. After that, the social worker was just so gracious to us, helped me to get her handprints and fingerprints. Her handprints and her footprints, and do things that I had never even considered because I, wasn't thinking clearly. And so I'm just grateful that she had the presence of mind to help me to do that. And so the way that the book basically came about was while Kayla was still on life support, I had actually sat down that morning and had written what was going to be a letter to her because, had been in prayer, had wondered, was this going to be the day? Because she wasn't making improvement over those 2 days. Um, and the first thing that when I sat down, the first thing I put on the paper was Mommy's Bright Sunshine. And what came forth, what I thought was going to be a letter about how I loved her and was going to miss her, really started to come forth as a poem. And so my individual time with her, I was able to read that to her, and ended up reading that at her homegoing service as well.
Mhm.
And then, after everything was done and we were home, I decided that I was going to journal because Kayla was my only child at that time. I didn't want to forget any details. So I figured I better start, just noting everything that happened so that I could remember all the details of her brief life. Um, and it just kept pouring forth. And over time, a book just materialized. So what started out as a letter turned into a poem, turned into a journal, turned into a book. Um, and I just want readers to know that although Kayla's father and I did divorce, it really did not occur because of Kayla's death. We had challenges before, and after her death, just came to realize that um, it was too much to overcome to deal with the previous challenges and the death of a child. And then the book actually took me 16 years to publish, not because it takes that long to write a book, but I tell people that life kind of got in the way. After Kayla died, I really missed parenting, but I knew that I was not ready to get into a relationship. So I actually adopted my daughter. So I was a single parent for about 4.5 years. Then I got married and had a son. And so Kayla would now be 24. My second daughter is 23, and my son just turned 18. So that's why I say that a lot of things happened, you know, um, that sort of prevented me from really focusing on my book. But I had in there about moving beyond tragedy because I don't want people to think that you have to just be stuck and that your life ends when you experience such a trauma and unexpected and all of that. Does it impact me every day? Absolutely. I'm never going to say you ever get over it. I tell people it's a loss that I need to incorporate into my life. But I've gone on to, parent 2 children since then who are doing very well. Um, had started an organization. I still, I'm a social worker, a clinical social worker, so I still give back to others. But I believe that this experience has happened so that I can connect with other people and, understand certainly that pain is pain. We have different pains, yes, but I can understand, decisions that some people make, understand pain, but hopefully also can give hope. So in 5 months, that is what Kayla has helped me to be able to do, to learn and to grow and to help other people, which helps her life and death to make more sense.
That's amazing. A loss that I need to incorporate in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I love that statement. I love that statement. And especially, when we lose people, family members, friends, whomever, in a traumatic event, right? Sometimes I share this a lot, Tonya, and you probably can speak more to this. We get so caught up like in how they died that we
Mm-hmm.
forget about like how they live and what they
Absolutely.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
brought to us in that time. So to hear you say in that 5 months, this is what I learned. So I love to hear you say that. Um, I still have my review of the book because
Uh-huh.
I read the book years ago.
Yeah.
And I have my review here, everybody. And please, if you have questions, you can ask questions now if you like as we go along. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. Again, I'm here with Tonya Logan. She's a published author. She's a licensed clinical social worker. She's sharing her story about losing her 5-month-old daughter, Kayla. Um, Years ago while she was at a babysitter's house. So we're just talking through Tonya's journey of her healing, of her writing her book, how she was able to move forward. And now she's giving back, because even part-time, she's working with children, which is just impressive to me, after school, and helping these kids through some tough, challenging times in their life. So I commend you. I respect you. I
Thank you.
love your story. And again, I'm just so grateful for the connection. But here's a few things that I wrote, Tonya.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
said, I must admit, I thought that it would be extremely difficult reading the book. However, it was quite the contrary. The book was inspiring, uplifting to all dealing with the loss, and motivational. I felt myself smiling and nodding often, specifically with regard to the advice given to supporters. I was reminded of the comments when my brother was murdered. Everyone meant well. However, as noted in your book, we should be honest and state we don't know what to say versus
Mhm.
trying to say something comforting. So I'm going to stop right there. Like my review kept going.
Yeah. It was awesome.
Yeah. So let's talk about the things that people say that may not be beneficial,
Right.
to someone who may have lost anyone, but specifically, a child. And I'm not minimizing anyone who's lost anyone in their life or
Right.
particular child at any age, because it's all tough and
Mhm.
challenging. But more specifically, when you lose an infant, 5 months old, sometimes people will say some insensitive things like, well, you're still young, you're going to have another one. Can you
Right.
talk about some of those things that you may have heard that didn't necessarily help you? But I also want to talk about the things that were said and done, like the social worker, that also helped you through your journey.
Yeah. So, when Kayla died again, I know that people meant well, so I acknowledge that. But I did hear that you're young, you can have other children, and for one, I wasn't looking for a replacement child. I wanted that one, so
Right.
that wasn't helpful. I even told somebody, I said, if my husband died, you wouldn't tell me to just go get another one. Like it,
Right.
we can't just replace people. But we also don't know people's stories. Like I was blessed not to have difficulty conceiving, but that's not true for everyone.
Oh,
I
that's
do know
good.
someone um, whose son did die and they have not been able to have subsequent children. So we can't assume that just because somebody is young, you can have other children.
Right.
Um, so that could be a gut punch as well. I was also told that you're going to be blessed. And I'm thinking, so why does my child have to die for me to be blessed? Things like that. So again, and I'm 24 years in, so I can look back and realize that people meant well, but at the time, those types of comments were very painful. Um, People would say even, oh, well, she was so young and it would be worse if she were older. Well, when is ever a good time?
Right.
Never,
Right.
right? Um, you know, and again, and I appreciate what you said, we're not comparing losses by any stretch. Anytime a child predeceases a parent, then the parent has lost the future because we never expect to outlive our children. But I only have also 5 months of memories and pictures and things like that. So, I mean, who's to say which is worse? Like, that's why we
Right.
don't even compare. It's a
Right.
horrendous loss that'll be with us indefinitely. So when what I would find helpful if people were to just say, I'm praying for you, or, tell me the things I can do, whether it's like cooking a meal or, could be washing dishes. I mean, it could be practical kinds of things that, you know, people who experience, I think, an unexpected loss are literally trying to remember to breathe,
Right.
you know,
Yes.
because when I dropped my daughter off that Wednesday morning, she was perfectly healthy. I was imagining one day seeing her walk and having Christmas and her first birthday. And then that afternoon, she's on life support. And 2 days later, all of, my plans were gone.
Right.
So it's just no way to really wrap your mind around it. You don't have a chance to prepare. And I'm not saying that people whose children have medical issues, it's just different. I'm not saying one is better or the other, because you don't want to see your child suffer either. And that's
Right.
why we don't get into who has it more difficult. It's horrendous to bury your child regardless of the circumstance.
Right.
Um, when we do the grief work and working with parents, because I used to also facilitate bereavement support groups for parents, we never got into judgment of how a child died. It didn't matter if your child made poor decisions and got shot in a robbery, let's say. You still are a bereaved parent who's buried a child. It didn't matter if your child used drugs and died. I mean, didn't matter if your child was walking across the street and got hit by a car. Like, we're not there to judge. We're there to
Right.
support you and try to help you to heal as much as possible,
Right.
because you've already been through so much. Why do we need to put another layer onto it?
Right. No, you're right, because every relationship, right, is unique and individual. So our
Absolutely.
loss, our grief is going to
Hmm.
be unique and individual. And I always say this, Tonya, that when we start comparing, it robs you of your dignity.
Absolutely.
You know,
You're right.
it really does. So, we just can't compare.
Mhm.
One thing I can tell you guys to stop saying is, I know how you feel.
Oh my goodness,
Yeah.
yes. And that's
Because you
something that I
don't.
don't say even to other bereaved parents. I'm very cautious about that, because I don't know how even other, let's say, bereaved mothers feel. I know what it's like to lose my child.
Right.
Don't know what it's like for you to lose yours. I mean, because like you said, it's a totally different relationship. So Kayla's father and I, we lost the same child, but we experienced that differently.
Right.
Mothers may have lost, children, but again, we experience that differently. So just because we're bereaved parents, you know, that that just rubs me the wrong way when somebody says, "I know how you feel," because you really don't.
You really don't. That's right, Miss Pat. Thank you for joining in. She says right.
Mhm.
That's right.
Mhm.
So next month, Tonya, we are going to be talking about forgiveness and the
Okay.
process of forgiveness.
Mhm.
So I want to get here in your story too, because here's what I wrote as part of my review, guys, of her book. I respect how you comforted the babysitter and you were quick to forgive, not judging her for doing what so many of us have done.
Mhm.
Tonya, that was so powerful to me. But again, it made me think about the times that I have done that. I remember
Mhm.
both of my children. I laid them
Yeah.
on the adult bed. I, put the pillows around them, thinking that that was going to, protect them.
Right.
But even in your book, I can recall you comforting the babysitter. You
Trying to. Right.
Yeah. So you, as a grieving mother, trying to do that, and was willing to just walk in forgiveness so soon. How did you get to that place?
Well, I mean, really, I can only say God, quite frankly. But what I realized when I got to the hospital, because she was already there, she had gone with the ambulance. And I told her that we are vehicles by which the Lord's will is done. And, over time, even so grateful that the accident, and let me say, it was investigated by homicide and all of that. So I can't say that didn't also bring me some comfort, to
Yeah.
know that that there was nothing intentionally done. Um, but I'm so grateful that the accident did not occur with me, that or my mother, who used to watch Kayla as well. So I don't have that as a memory of seeing her hanging and trying to perform, CPR and things like that, because what myself and my mother deal with is horrendous enough.
Right.
But so wanting the babysitter to know that I really did not blame her. I mean, honestly, I had an experience with God before I got to the hospital. It was just pouring down raining that day. I really wasn't even sure how to get to the hospital because I wasn't thinking clearly, and just a lot, as you can imagine. And I felt someone touch me on my left shoulder, whether it was the hand of God or an angel dispersed, I don't know, but I felt a lot of anxiety just leave my body in that moment. And so when I got to the hospital and saw her, I think that was just God's way of letting me know that He was there. Was it hard to accept, as I saw her and heard, the doctor say, should she survive? Of course. But I also had that earlier experience to kind of start to prepare me. And, the babysitter was very apologetic. I'm sorry, I didn't know this was going to happen. And I mean, of course not. Um, she did come to the homegoing service, um, and and I actually had tried to stay in touch with her afterwards, but you know, it the whole reminder was just too difficult for her as well. So I just continue to pray for her at a distance. But just to think, about forgiveness, in that situation, it was not um, that challenging because I believe that God stepped in and had handled that before I even had walked through those emergency room doors.
That's powerful. That's powerful. So, Patricia says she's an author also, and she know that her book has helped her heal some issues in her life. And do you feel that your book has helped you in your healing?
I would say yes. I think in part because, um, and this is also, I think, in some of my training as a clinical social worker, that I believe when we write, then we are dealing with what's happening internally. And so by me being able to put it on paper, I don't have to, just keep it inside and try to keep the memories really within me. Like once it's written down, um, you're less likely to forget. So that frees you up. So that's helped me in healing. But when other people read the book and say that it has helped them, then that further helps my healing, because again, it helps to make her life and death have more purpose. It
Yeah,
wasn't in vain. So if Kayla had to die, be sacrificed, if you will, to help someone else, then kind of isn't that what this Christian journey is about? Painful, yes. I will never say it's not painful. Every day I open my eyes, I know it's one more day that I have not had her in my life. However, if other people are able to be helped, then her brief life has still had an impact in a positive way.
yeah, yeah. Amen. Thank you, Patricia. Great question.
Mm.
Great question. What final thoughts, Tonya, do you want to leave with our viewers and for those who are going to be watching the replay, um, who may have, lost a child?
Mhm.
Any final words of encouragement or?
Um, yeah, I would like people, and you just said it, to be encouraged, to realize that yes, the early days and weeks and months may be, well, not maybe, will be challenging, but also not to feel that, when people say time heals all wounds, I don't believe that's accurate. to feel that, each subsequent year is going to be easier, if you will, than the previous year. I also don't think that's accurate. I just recall year 9 being very, very difficult for me. I don't know why it was year 9. So it wasn't like when she was about to go to kindergarten or the 10-year anniversary. So year 9 was worse than year 4 or what have you. I don't know. I had to take off a week from work. So just be gentle with yourself and take each day as it comes. And what I do believe is that when I still have bad days, which I do, the depths aren't typically as low and they don't last typically as long. So it's more about becoming more comfortable, I guess, with this reality as we continue to go through life.
Yeah.
So I want people to be encouraged to realize that they don't have to be stuck, to realize that at times you may literally feel helpless, but that doesn't mean you have to be hopeless. And if people are interested in reading the book, it can be found on Amazon.
All right. Thank you, Dawn. Dawn said that she's amazed by your strength and your ability to forgive. Dawn, I was as well. I mean, that just stood out to me so much in that book. And again, I got the book. I wanted to support, and I was a little reluctant to open the pages because I know I get so emotional, and this is a 5-month-old baby. But it definitely blessed me, Tonya. It helped me through tough times, in my life, and the fact that you could forgive, so quickly and so freely. It just really touched me. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So do we have any further questions? If not, you guys know you can watch the replay. Again, if you know anyone who is dealing with loss of any kind, during this time, please feel free to like this video, share it for me if you will. Have them look up our YouTube station. We post all the videos there. Thank you for your kind comments tonight and your questions.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, Patricia, for always supporting. And you're welcome. And thank you for your question. I know this is a tough, topic, but Tonya, again, just so gracious.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, I really appreciate you being here. Thank you for what you continue to do, though. Thank you for your line of work, and working with our youth. Again, I know it's not easy.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you so much.
All righty. Everybody, have a blessed evening.
Have a great evening, guys. We want you to be healthy and whole. And we hope that this video, this live encouraged you tonight, inspired you, brought you some type of healing and hope. So have a blessed night. Peaceful rest, everybody.
Amen.